So I want to talk about the initial briefing that soldiers get when they first come to the unit. When a new soldier comes to a unit, they're issued a blue folder. It basically has a lot of check boxes on it of things that they need to do in order to complete an in-processing. And one of those things is to meet the first sergeant. And so it's that's my part to meet them and have an initial conversation with them, sort of the meet and greet for the soldier. Now, I've been in the Guard for 12 years, and I know what these meet and greets usually go like, and how they're usually conducted. And most of the time, it's just a first sergeant sitting down with the new soldier and saying something like, "Welcome to the unit. I'm glad you're here. Just let me lay out some things. Be on time, on target, right uniform, do all the right things, be where you're supposed to be, and use your chain of command for any issues and any questions for me." And that would basically be about the extent of the briefing. That sounds pretty boilerplate, pretty standard issue. It doesn't come across to the soldier as being very personal or invested. It's kind of what the soldier wants to hear or expects to hear, and they're in and out of there pretty quickly. But in my view, whenever I sit down with a new soldier, I absolutely do not want it to sound boilerplate. That this has to sound like it's coming from the heart and like I mean it. And it's going to be like no other first sergeant briefing they've ever had before, because I'm really going to give it to them straight, and I'm going to mean it, and they're going to know that I'm as fully invested in their success as they are. So when I have my conversation with them, there's some key points that I like to hit with them. That when I sit them down, I'll start off by saying, this is going to be a conversation between you and me on expectations about what I expect from you and what you can expect from me. Now, initially, you can read their body language, their posture. When they come in, they're talking to their first sergeant. It's a meeting about expectations, so naturally their defenses are a little bit up. So they sit kind of rigid, and they're kind of defensive, leaning forward in their chair, sort of, I guess, ready to parry some negative things coming at them maybe. But as I go through the briefing, I can see that their demeanor becomes more relaxed, because they know that this isn't a defensive conversation. This is a mutual conversation between two people. So I'll start off with what they can expect from me, because that's most of the conversation. And I'll say, what you can expect from me is to be the best first sergeant that you've ever had in your military career. Now, that sounds pretty high-handed, but that's my goal, is to be the best first sergeant that they've ever had. And there's ways to explain that, but I'll go on to tell them that however successful that you want to be, I will help you with that. If you'll meet me 50%, I'll meet you 50% of the way every time. Whether you want to be a better instructor, you want to be a better soldier, citizen, you want to be better in your MOS skills, you want to, whatever it is you want to improve on, you can look at me as a resource for you. I'll also explain that obviously I'm not their first line leader, and there's something called a chain of command that soldiers usually use to bring issues up the chain. And so if it's a private or specialist, they might have an E5 or an E6, E7 in between them and me, ideally that they'll bring issues up that I can address. But you have to realize that a lot of the times, maybe their E5, E6, E7 aren't as fully invested in their success as they could be or should be. So I've seen this way too many times, where a soldier will bring their issue to their squad leader, section sergeant, platoon sergeant, E5, E6, E7, and it get dropped, or it doesn't get handled. They get ignored. They get delayed. And so they think the buck stops there. They'll become discouraged at that point, and then realize or think that the system has failed them, that they don't have any powder to bring issues up because this is as good as it gets. Well, I know that that happens. And I can't affect the attitude of every E5, 6, and 7 between me and a soldier. But I do have control of me, and I'm talking to them. So I'll make the point to say, look, if you have an issue, first bring it to your first line leader. But also keep in mind that if you don't get an answer in a timely manner, or you don't feel that you're getting an answer as soon as you need to get one, then you call me immediately. And I tell them that that's not a joke. You can call me 24/7. And at this point in the conversation, I'll make sure that they put my number in their phone and send me a text. And I have to repeat myself a few times because they'll probably think that, oh, he's just saying that. He doesn't really expect me to call him when something goes wrong. I absolutely expect you to call me when something goes wrong. I also make the point to say, look, whenever you ring my phone, if you call me, you immediately become my number one priority. Well, how can that be? Well, if a soldier is calling me, then it's probably not to discuss what they're having for dinner or their favorite color. They're calling me because something is wrong and they need something addressed. Therefore, for me, that immediately gets to the top of my list, and they become my number one priority. And I hit them hard on that point, that that's exactly what's going to happen. And if nobody else will take action on your issue, as soon as you call me, action will be taken on your issue. I will get the ball rolling immediately. And I tell them I'm very responsive. And if you call or text me and it takes me 5 minutes to get back to you, then I'm probably slow that day. And during the conversation, I'm seeing them smile and light up a little bit because they know that this guy's not kidding. He's very serious about this. Now, with this back and forth that we're having, and I'm talking frankly to these people because they're adult people, and I think we can have this kind of conversation to set out expectations. We don't lose military bearing. We don't lose discipline. We don't lose respect. And I make that point that we can have conversations and we can communicate with each other in a respectful military way without those things breaking down, and still be honest with each other and beneficial. So that's what this conversation is all about, that I am here for you. The only reason that I decided to become a first sergeant is to help soldiers, is to develop and train other soldiers. In my mind, there's no other reason to want to be a first sergeant. In my case, I don't need the money. I don't need the glory. I could have stayed at another job that I had and just not done much of anything. But I chose to interview and take a first sergeant job for the sole reason of being in a better position to help and develop soldiers. And I make that point to them, that there's one reason why I'm here, and it's you. It's your success. Whatever you want to be better at, I am here to help you. That's the reason that I exist. So I lay out expectations on it's called them minimums. I say, what I expect from you are what you learned in basic training pretty much. 60, 60, 60 on your PT test. That's the minimum. You got to shoot 23 at the range. You have to show up to drill. And you have to not exceed body fat percentage for your height. You have to pass height and weight. If you do those minimum things, you can stay in the Guard. You can stay a soldier. Now, I'm not going to encourage you to do the minimums. But if you don't want to do anything else, if you don't want to exceed in any other area at all, you still have to do those basic things. And I'm going to expect that out of you at a bare minimum. Now, if you want to succeed, if you want to excel and become better in something, then I am here to help you. And when you call me for help or a resource, I'm not going to say I'll get back to you next week or I'll see you next drill. It's going to be, okay, let me get on that right now. And you'll probably have some feedback or an answer in a half an hour or an hour, but you're going to get some pretty speedy progress, and it's going to amaze you. You're never going to see a first sergeant like me. And so that's the tone that the conversation takes. And as we go through that conversation, I see them relax and I see them believe what I'm telling them. That's the most important thing. They realize that I'm being honest with them and genuine with them. And that's what you have to do. In my mind, it can't be just a bam bam 2-minute conversation and you think that you've successfully onboarded that soldier and established any kind of leadership, mentor-mentee relationship. You just haven't done it. When you look into the person's eyes and you explain to them and you watch them pick up what you lay down, that you are here to help them, and that is the reason that you're here to help them, and that you're aware of the hurdles that they're going to get or that they're going to encounter when they seek help from other people. I mean, you're aware of that, you know how to overcome that, and you tell them that you're going to help them overcome that. I make a point to say, look, I don't want you to be in this unit forever. I would like you to want to pursue a higher rank. And so that when you want to do that, you can look to me as a resource for that, to help you put together that packet, or to get you those missing pieces of the puzzle that you're going to need to apply for that better job.